Twisted Minds versus Team Peps. This match was a wake-up call. On paper, Twisted Minds seemed the favored team, bolstered by their past experience with Malga compositions and a seasoned roster. However, those factors were ultimately irrelevant. What mattered was the outcome. Team Peps emerged victorious. Today we're going to talk about how they did it through the perspective of FDGod, Team Peps Lucio player. The map begins with Team Peps on the attack, with an interesting strategy in store. Exodio throws a TP onto the green car, which is taken by Tread, who's on Hog, and Yoham, who's on Ana. Almost immediately, though, they TP back, and their only action was putting Kellen to sleep. So, what was that? The idea was to catch a player from Twisted off guard. Yoham could sleep the potential target, and if they were in range, Tread would be able to hook them. Kellen's reaction was fast enough, and he escaped unharmed, although ended up sleeping on the job. Team Peps make swaps over to their standard heroes, and here's where our attack truly begins. The only difference between these two compositions is the hitscan DPS. Team Peps Exodio is running the Cass, who's arguably stronger in Tefera and at close to mid ranges, while Twisted are running the Sojourn, who might struggle a bit in Tefera, but can excel when given longer sightlines. Unfortunately for Twisted though, there aren't many long sightlines here on this first point, so Peps' composition might be a bit stronger here. Now, what is FDGod's job on Lucio in this matchup and on this map? Lucio must do 3 simple things. 1. Enable Malga. 2. Control the various high grounds. And 3. Build beat as fast as possible. This is oversimplifying a bit. There are other small things FDGod will need to do, such as peel for Exodio when required, but for now, just remember those 3 key points. Peps might be taking this first fight slowly, but every moment counts. FDGod works to build beat as quickly as possible. As Tread swings out to take space and pressure the point, FDGod switches corners and provides Peps with more control over the map. This position would allow FDGod to respond to any member of Twisted Minds, such as Quartz, from retaking this high ground and taking an aggressive angle onto Tread. FDGod uses Amp Heal to keep Tread healthy, and Exodio lands a clean shot onto Quartz across the map. Now that Peps are up 1, they can take the initiative. FDGod switches back over to the left side into a more aggressive position to assist Tread in swinging this next corner. FDGod's first priority is to clear Vigilante, who still holds a small angle over on the right lane. Once the Kiriko TP is forced, FDGod can focus his damage onto the core of Twisted Minds. Shortly afterwards, Team Peps take the first point in a successful first fight. The second point on Hollywood is interesting and difficult to play. There are 2 key high grounds, and to attack this point, you either have to try and force your way onto this high ground and win a fight that way, or force your opponent off of high ground to contest cart and take a fight on the low ground. If you choose to fight high ground, you'll still need someone pushing the cart, at least some of the time. This is usually Tracer's job, but since there's no Tracer, Lucio is the next best option due to his mobility and ability to reposition after pushing the cart to assist his team. While Twisted Minds respawn, Team Peps set themselves up on the high ground. FDGod, meanwhile, is the payload princess and awaits Twisted Minds' first move. Naga notices a rotation through the saloon and looks to punish with Barrage. Yoham throws down a Suzu to keep him alive, and FDGod rushes in to assist. Here, we'll see a great split-second mechanical decision from FDGod. His first target is Vigilante, who TPs away. Crispy then decides to use Beat in response to the barrage from Peps, and FDGod boops Crispy out away from the doorway. Although Kellen did receive the beat, because Crispy was unable to turn the corner like he intended, the backline of Twisted Minds did not receive any beat health. Vigilante uses Kitsune and Labda uses Barrage. Tread is left at low HP, so FDGod uses Beat to keep him alive and allow for a re-engage. There was a bit of a mistake here though. You can't exactly re-engage, at least easily, into a Kitsune. FDGod tries to force his way in alongside Tread, but is focused down, followed by Naga, ending the fight. This next fight, it's going to suck for Peps. In general, these fights are going to suck for Peps because Twisted Minds have a huge positional advantage to start with. Remember, you can start the fight by either forcing your way onto the high ground or forcing your opponents to drop cart. Peps at first want to send Tread to cart, but after taking a ton of poke, they decide to force the high ground instead. FDGod doesn't need to do much here, just climb the wall and look for a potential boop. Tread throws down a cage trapping Kellen, and here we will learn a very valuable lesson about this Malga meta. It's really easy to overult. Exodio uses the High Noon, and Twisted Minds abandon their trapped Malga. Although Kellen's fate was already sealed, Naga decides to use Barrage as well. This really sucks for Peps. Yes, taking down Kellen will net you a fight win, but no, you didn't need both Barrage and High Noon to win that fight. This places Peps at a disadvantage for our next fight. Twisted Minds reset and spawn, and it's up to FDGod to push the cart while Peps set up on high once again. Kellen is the first to touch cart, and FDGod immediately backs off to join his Mauga on the high ground. Naga is picked off by Quartz, and this starts a little game of tower defense for Peps. They don't want to make a move until Naga returns, but also don't want to give up the high ground while they regroup, so they need to try and hold on to this position in a 4v5. Here, it's Lucio's job to look for boops and keep the opponent off the high ground at all costs. Kellen takes the elevator to reach the high ground, and FDGod reacts to the boop. This boop doesn't do anything though, because Kellen started his charge early so that he would be unboopable. FDGod's next boop is onto the backline, although it does not achieve much. When Kellen drops the cage, FDGod drops off the high ground, carrying Tread and using Amp to keep him alive. Once he has Amp available once again, he uses it to allow Peps to make a decisive rotation to retake the high ground. A speed Amp rotation like this is more difficult to react to. Naga does end up dying again though, so guess what? More tower defense. Kellen goes for his charge, FDGod boops once again, just in case there were any boopable targets alongside him. He then lands a direct boop onto Labda, throwing him away from the fight, and this defense was successful. Naga has returned on Genji. Twisted Minds, understanding that Peps are now healthy, and 5, decide to wait and bait Peps to drop, understanding that retaking high would be a relatively difficult approach. Labda gets a little too aggressive while trying to poke and is taken out by Exodial. Peps are now up 1. FDGod amp speeds Peps off the high ground, but stays himself after hearing Quartz use Deadeye. FDGod wraps around the backside, avoiding Deadeye LOS, and rejoins his team safely. Exodial's 2k during the Kitsune allows Peps to cap the second point, and now they have just over 2 minutes to attack the third. This next fight begins with an aggressive move from Tread. He places himself in the right lane alongside Naga, while Peps' backline plays around Cart. This is a very aggressive position that prevents Twisted from advancing any further without disposing of Tread. So that's exactly what they decide to do. Vigilante uses Kitsune down the center lane and splits Tread from his backline. This leaves FDGod with a split-second decision to make. Do you beat and allow Tread to live, potentially turning the fight, or do you allow Tread to die and reset, retaining the beat for the next fight? In this case, FDGod decides not to beat, forfeiting the fight, and this happened to be the correct decision. If FDGod uses beat, Tread's survival isn't guaranteed. His best bet would be use cage fight along with the beat, but then Labda has barrage, so he'd just get bursted right through any beat health, and his own cage would become his own prison. And of course, the Kitsune doesn't help Tread's case. No matter what, Tread would likely die, and the beat would be a waste. This makes this a hugely impactful decision from FDGod. Twisted Minds set up close for this next fight, on the high ground right outside of Pep's spawn room. The key with attacking this high ground as Lucio is timing. As Tread uses the elevator charge strategy to ascend without getting booped, FDGod climbs the wall. Both players arrive simultaneously. Even Naga did the same thing on Genji, patiently waiting for the right moment and appearing just as Tread charges onto the high ground. Tread uses the cage, and FDGod assists by landing a triple boop melee, helping corner the backline of Twisted Minds. This fight ended quickly, with only one ultimate invested from Team Peps. Here, we will see another key role fulfilled by the Lucio player, scouting. Twisted Minds rotate up through the high ground, and FDGod moves to scout and confirm the rotation. This information provides Peps with a few seconds to react if needed. Twisted, after realizing a full engage from high ground would be too difficult considering the distance, back off and drop to contest Cart. Naga wins a 1v1 with Labda on the high ground, and now it's time for Peps to make their move. Exodial uses High Noon, and FDGod amps Speed, a common combo that allows for a typically immobile ultimate to be used to swing a corner or clear a space. Kellen uses Cage in an attempt to salvage the situation, and FDGod responds with a high-value beat. Quartz uses High Noon, and here, FDGod does get caught and taken down before he was able to turn the corner, an unfortunate death. Twisted turned the fight in their favor, and now Peps have only one more chance to touch. Tread is the first to touch, but is quickly forced out. FDGod moves to contest in a forced attempt to keep overtime alive. Labda takes him out, and the round ends shortly afterwards, with Peps having pushed 77.94 meters on the third point. To start the attack, Twisted Minds are back on Sojourn. It's a bit puzzling why Twisted Minds continue to attempt to force Sojourn, but it may just have to do with Quartz having a stronger Sojourn than Cassidy. Tread sets up close, and from this position, the plan is to aggressively hit Twisted's rotation through the first choke. FDGod uses amp speed and trusts Tread to sustain with the cardiac overdrive. FDGod looks for a quick dive on the rotation but backs off quickly to avoid getting punished. Exodial picks up a kill onto Quartz, and Twisted are forced to disengage. A first fight win for Peps. Quartz also swaps right back over to Cassidy, which isn't very surprising. Next fight is the same setup for Peps. Amp speed Malga close, Exodio lands a casual headshot onto Labda, but Twisted Minds do manage to turn this fight due to a small mistake from Peps. Tread oversteps, placing himself right in the middle of Twisted Minds. Crispy boops him in, and Kellen finishes the kill. Kellen then finishes off Yoham as well, who was already low, leaving Twisted Minds in a hugely advantageous position. FDGod backs off to assist members of Peps in returning for a re-engage. Both teams use Kitsune, but with Peps down Exodio and Tread already half HP, this wasn't going to be a fight where Peps were likely to win. An attempt was made, but Twisted Minds capped, leaving themselves with around 5 minutes to capture the second point. Twisted Minds control high ground, so Peps need to take this next fight very carefully. FDGod helps Peps rotate underneath, and now Peps wait patiently for an opportunity to strike. Naga lands a direct onto Quartz, and Kellen is forced to drop to fight for Cart and is subsequently forced out. Peps kept their calm, they found a pick, and now they can take the high ground while Twisted reset. FDGod plays back at the start of this fight. The reason for this is that Peps are actually baiting Twisted Minds into a Deadeye, so they want them to come onto the high ground rather than seeking an immediate boop. With the Deadeye, FDGod also uses amp speed to help Exodio enter the cage. But here, FDGod makes an unfortunate mistake. Seeing that Tread was low, and that Crispy used Beat, FDGod made a split-second assumption that Beat would be needed to close out this fight. And that wasn't the case. Exodio had hit 2 with the Deadeye, and Peps were relatively healthy. When FDGod dropped the Beat, the fight was already over, and it ended up being a complete waste. Something to remember though is that these decisions can be extremely difficult in the moment. Imagine not using Beat and then Twisted turn that fight with another ultimate. The idea of that happening is scary, and it's a very real scenario that could occur. And in this meta in particular with cage fights, both teams basically spam ultimates, and it's extremely difficult to tell what you actually need in order to win a fight. And that's why you'll see professional teams and players waste ultimates in these situations. They prefer to be overkill rather than risk being underkill and losing a winnable fight. Peps finish out this fight with a clever little stagger onto Quartz, and then get set up once again. At the start of this fight, FDGod is trying to move in a way to avoid any poke from the Pharah, pulling out his Matrix moves to prevent any stupid poke deaths. Twisted Minds make a quick rotation underneath and have chosen to start the fight by forcing Cart. Tread responds by quickly dropping the contest, and FDGod moves in sync with him as he clears the saloon and slams outside. FDGod makes a slightly risky move here, jumping out into the LOS of the High Noon for a moment to stick with the core of Peps. The healing aura also allows Exodio to live just long enough to finish the kill onto Quartz, providing Peps with a +1 advantage. The next amp is used to get Tread back to full, and Peps clean up this fight, now having drained Twisted Minds of over half their time bank. Now, Twisted Minds go back to trying to force the high ground. Kellen takes the elevator but doesn't use the charge, so it's an easy boop for FDGod. Kellen then does the same thing again, and FDGod boops him once more, this time denying his cardiac overdrive. Quartz is left alone on the high ground and is finished off by a magnetic nade from Exodio. Twisted Minds regroup yet again. Twisted Minds decide to once again swap up their strats, maybe unsure of exactly what they want to do. They attempt to force Cart this time, and Tread drops on Kellen with the cage without fear. Crispy uses Beat, and FDGod naturally matches. The Deadeye and Barrage provide a clear advantage to Peps in this cage fight, and Twisted Minds are now in final fight territory. Pace. For this final fight, Peps set the pace. And I love to see these fights because the ability to execute with such confidence and aggression is what separates good teams from great teams. Peps swing the close corner using FDGod's amp, and Tread slams Quartz while FDGod throws him into the corner with a boop. A quick smack in the face, and things aren't looking too good for Twisted. With 20 seconds left, Peps set up again, a quick speed amp around the corner with impeccable timing, and Kellen is reduced to ashes within seconds. Quartz makes a swap over to Tracer in an attempt to touch, but it's an easy mark for FDGod, and with that kill, Team Peps had achieved the upset, and 2-0'd Twisted Minds. That's it for today's player analysis. This was a bit of a longer one, so let me know if you like these longer videos. If you have a player, a team, or a match you want to see in the future, make sure to let me know down below. And as always, share, like, and subscribe so that I can continue to create the best educational content the pro scene has to offer.